All right. Again, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for our New York Virtual Student Panel. My name is Cheryl Sani Chara, and I am a director on the Executive MBA admissions team. Tonight, what we'll do is we'll go through a program overview. It'll be relatively short just to give you a brief overview and summary of the program and what it has to offer. And then I have four of our current students here with me will be our panelists for tonight's student panel. And so after we walk through the program, we'll jump into the virtual panel and I will ask them some questions that we've prepared and that was submitted prior to the event. And then we can take questions from the audience afterward. So please use I think there's a Q&A function. It looks like there's chat. But please type in your questions if you have questions throughout the session. And then what I'll do is just read through the questions and then, have the students answer those questions. And then we should be wrapped up in about an hour or so. Okay, great. All right, so let's get started. So the NYU Stern Executive MBA program has 2 start terms per year. There's a January start date and an August start date. And there's really no difference between the start dates. It's really just a matter of your personal preference and when you would like to begin the program. Some people prefer the start of like the school year so that you can start school with their kids. Some others will find that the beginning of the year a little bit easier for their work schedule. So it really depends on you. The program itself is 22 months of coursework. So from start to finish, it's about 2 years in the program. The class schedule is every other Friday and Saturday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So because you do need time off on Friday, we do recommend that you speak with your employer about getting time out of the office because the classes run on Fridays for the full business day. In addition to class weekends, there are also 2 required residencies in year 1. There is a domestic residency, which is essentially the orientation week. So our students participate in that at the very start of the program. They spend a week together at a conference center and hotel where they begin taking their first set of courses. And then there are also some networking events that are planned for our students as well during that orientation week. There's also a global immersion experience, which is it's essentially an international trip. It's a residency week, so our students will spend a week abroad in a market where they will go on company visits and meet with business leaders from different industries or even government officials. And they'll essentially learn more about that market and take their learnings and prepare it upon return by completing a paper for the course because it is considered a course. And then at the end of the program, all of our students earn an MBA degree in general management. So we'll talk a little, I think in the next slide, we'll talk about the academics, but there is an option to specialize. But the degree itself is an MBA degree, even though you are pursuing an executive MBA program. So it's the same as your traditional MBA degree. All right, so here's the curriculum, and here's where we'll talk about specializations. So upon entering the program, all of our students take their core courses with their cohort. And so that's considered the core curriculum. So students will take courses in accounting, statistics, marketing, and strategy, just to name a few of the business areas to really gain a strong foundation in different business disciplines. And then in year 2, students will move on to take elective courses. There's a lot of flexibility to really customize the MBA with the electives that you choose because you can take electives that are sort of that very well. So like if you're a marketing professional, you can take electives in in a marketing area. If you would like to challenge yourself, you can totally take electives that are outside of your comfort zone. So it's really up to you how you want to plan your second year. Through the electives that you take, you actually have the option to specialize in certain specializations. In order to earn a specialization, students must earn about 9 credits in one area of study in order to earn a specialization. Specializations are completely optional, so it's up to you how you want to plan. to earn specializations or just to take electives that you're interested in. And then again, at the end of the program, that will lead you to earn an MBA degree in general management. Okay, now taking a look at our typical class profile, just keep in mind that there's no typical candidate for the program. In our most recent classes, we've seen that our average student is about 37 years old and has about 13 years of work experience, as well as 7 years of management experience. Our students are, some of our students are coming from an international background, which means that they've worked or they've lived abroad for a significant amount of time. So we see 33% of our students coming in with an international background. And our students love learning. So we have 25% of students coming into the MBA program already holding advanced degrees. And then we have a representation of 37% of women in the program, which is a number that we're always looking to improve on, but it's also a number that we're proud of. It's relatively high among the industry for MBA programs. And then looking at the right side of my screen here with typical industries, you can see that there is a diverse mix of industries represented in the program, with the top industry being financial services, and then after that being healthcare and pharmaceutical space, and then CPG. So there are a good mix of industries across the program. And when the admissions committee is selecting candidates for the program to bring into the cohort, we're looking at diversity in the class. So whether that's diversity in industry and background, work experience, all of those things are considered. So they're not specific buckets that we're looking to fill. So I definitely want to point that out. And then in the first year of the program, our students are placed into study groups. These are smaller groups of about 5 to 6 students. It's essentially a cross-functional team that's put together that essentially leads students to bring in strengths from different areas and to be able to lend support to one another in the first year of the program through the courses that they take. Those are predetermined, but we find the study groups are really successful for helping students succeed in the first year of the program. Okay, so that was a quick snapshot for you. Now let's talk about the application process and how you can apply. So there are 2 steps in our process, and the process itself is a holistic review process. So the first step is to submit your pre-assessment for the program. We do have 2 prerequisites in place in order to be eligible to apply to the program. The first is that you must hold a bachelor's degree. And then the second is that all of our applicants must have a minimum of 6 years of full-time work experience. So as long as you meet both of those prerequisites, you are able to apply to the program. The pre-assessment is a relatively short sort of screening application. It'll give us a good snapshot of your background and your experience. So we'll ask for some personal details, and we'll ask you for an updated resume or CV. And then you can submit that to us. There's no fee to submit the pre-assessment. Once the pre-assessment has been completed, and you have been determined to be eligible for the program, then you can move on to step 2, which is our application. It's our formal application. And this is where you'll spend the bulk of your time working on essays, transcripts, letters of recommendation. A lot of these items are pretty standard across different programs. We have 2 required essays, and then we require transcripts from any universities where you've earned a degree. We don't require anything official at this point, so you're welcome to upload scanned copies of transcripts that you got upon, graduating or whatnot. With the letters of recommendation, we do ask that one of those letters of recommendation come from your current manager. That is a requirement. The second letter of recommendation can come from a previous supervisor, a colleague, someone that you've previously worked with, as long as it's professional. So we really don't have a strict guideline with the second letter. Everyone must complete an interview with a member of the admissions committee. This can be done in between, prior to submitting your formal application or after. It's really up to you what you would prefer. The interview itself is about 30 to 45 minutes long. It's one-on-one with a member of the admissions committee. And during the interview, it'll be a good way for the committee member to really learn more about you, learn more about your background, your goals, why you're interested in earning your MBA, and why Stern. So be prepared to answer those types of questions. And you can approach the interview as you would a job interview. The next two items are optional, so we will skip that for the sake of time. But then we do have an application fee. It's $175, I believe. But to thank you all for joining us this evening, we are more than happy to provide you with an application fee waiver so you don't have to submit payment for that formal application. You should receive an email following the event with a code that you can enter into the application so you can bypass that fee. So we appreciate you all being here with us on your evening, and we'd be happy to provide that to you. Now, I think, okay, so we have some contact information up for you here. There's a QR code if you want to scan that and get directly to our website where you can start that pre-assessment. But our contact information is here on the left if you have any questions. We're available during business hours. You can email us, you can call us. Our website also has a ton of information if there was something that you wanted to dig a little deeper into that I mentioned today. So yeah, please get in touch with us if you have any questions following the session. Okay, and now we'll move on to our student panel. As I mentioned, we have 4 students here with us tonight. To start off, I will ask each of our students to introduce themselves briefly. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your title, your company, your cohort, anything else you want to add there. And anyone can go first. I don't know if you want to go in the order of the slide. It doesn't matter to me.
So I can go first. My name is Karen Landim. I'm from Brazil. I work as a marketing and sales manager for a brand called Icony, and I am part of the J25 cohort.
Okay, I'll go next. I'm Linda Bowie, a director of operations strategy at the Coca-Cola Company. I work under the sports drink division, and I am A25, which is, as you see here, August class of 25. Was there supposed to be a fun fact or something, or just that?
That's fine if you have a fun fact to give it.
I don't really have I'm not a fun person, so I'm gonna wait. I'll think about something.
True. Linda,
Such a
you're
lie. Such a
super
lie.
fun.
Super fun.
Cheryl, can you give me video access again? I'm sorry. This is Kim. Thank you. I'll take it.
Okay,
Hi, I'm Kim Aguilo. I'm Senior Director at ESPN. I spent most of my career actually in media strategy and planning, but recently pivoted to a media operations role, and I'm in the same class as Linda and Joe. But we also share classes with Karen as well, so it's really great. We're all together. Joe, close us out.
That's true. I'll close this out. Joe Frick, VP of BD from a company called the Goodway Group. It's a digital advertising agency. Greetings from Chicagoland. I'm actually at a conference today. That's my fun fact for the day, that I'm at a conference today. Great to meet you all, and thanks for coming to the webinar.
Okay, great. Thank you all for that quick introduction. Can you tell us a little bit about your cohort? I know Linda, Joe, and Kim, you could probably all talk about yours together, and then Karen would love to hear a little bit about yours.
Okay. So my cohort is very diverse in terms of
We'll
backgrounds.
cede the floor to Karen.
Sorry, did you say something, Kim?
Oh,
Can you
no, I
hear
was
me?
gonna say, yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry. So there is a doctor. Also, one of my best friends is from Mexico, so she flies in for every class section. So I believe the people are the best part of the program and make the experience even more interesting. So my study group included a veteran, someone who works at Warner Music, and an entrepreneur who speaks 6 languages. So you will definitely meet talented and intelligent people here.
Okay, should we tag team A25 and talk about ours?
Yeah.
Okay, so most of us are A25 here. I think I echo some of what Karen said. Everyone's very diverse, different backgrounds, made a bunch of friends. I think everyone gets along really well as well. Joe, Kim, feel free to add any fun facts.
I would say our youngest member is 28. Our most seasoned member is, I want to say 58. So there's a wide span there. And then you can follow a normal curve for everyone in between. But we have people who are early in their careers, as well as people who are really just in the love of learning and looking to expand their skill set and their business acumen, but also networking. Like there's people from a variety of industries, and I can't say I've had a bad conversation yet.
It's great because the span of experience, I would say to any aspiring applicant that this experience is what you put into it. And somewhere along the line, early on, as you onboard into the program, if you're accepted, you kind of agree with your cohort that you want to make it this shared collaborative experience, because the learnings don't stop with just the classroom curriculum. It doesn't stop with the professor's lectures. The learning happens in the small groups. The learning happens as a result of a lot of the balance that NYU's EMBA administration kind of so artfully does in creating the initial study groups. Like this component of these diverse groups of folks, many of whom I probably would never have met in the normal course of my business, coming together for this kind of 22-month period is unique and kind of special. And it really is the people that make all the difference. And so I completely echo what Linda and Kim said as members directly of my cohort, and Karen and I were also part of a study group last term, and it was a terrific experience all around.
Okay, great. Oh, I didn't know you guys were part of the same study group. That's cool. All right, perfect. Now when you were selecting your MBA, I'm sure you had a number of schools in consideration, and I'm sure everyone is curious to hear, why did you pick NYU and why did you pick Stern?
So I moved to the US because of my husband's MBA. A friend of mine told me he was applying to the EMBA program at NYU. So I flew to New York with him to attend a class and fell in love with the school. And NYU is known worldwide and has a strong reputation in Brazil. So I decided to apply.
Um, For me, NYU obviously has a great reputation. But when I actually visited the classes and were able to sit in, I just felt more connected to just even the location, honestly. Like that's prime for me. Because I live in the city, so I live in Brooklyn, so commuting to the city would be a lot easier. I like where we're located. The school is a great school and has a great reputation. I attended a few events and I feel like I really connected and was inspired by the current cohort that was presenting to us as well. There was a panel that I went to. Yeah, so I feel like a stronger connection towards NYU than I did other schools when I was looking at them.
I agree with Linda. I attended a couple of student events and audited
Go
a
ahead,
class.
Joe.
Oh, yep. I live in Hoboken, and for me, geographic desirability absolutely factored in. But Stern's reputation, I'm on the older side of the cohort, as Kim described it, a seasoned veteran, and I've had this kind of really cool love affair with Greenwich Village for about 53 years. And it was very meaningful to put myself in that environment. It's very unique to NYU to be in this pretty awesome environment where like the cultural and historic hub of New York City kind of takes its birth. Like Washington Square Park is named for someone who was alive when Washington Square Park was like a place on a map, and there's a lot of history under your feet, a lot of storied and esteemed alumni that have gone through there, and they're definitely an outgrowth of a lot of the learning opportunities. Stern just has top-notch faculty. They're doing interesting research, and they actually put a focus on some of the more soft skills around leadership, which may sound like just words, but in fact, in practice and in the instruction, it turns out that these are things that I think companies are putting a tremendous value on right now. And it's great to be able to put frameworks around business practices that I had had in industry before coming to the program. So all that together kind of told me that Stern was a great choice.
My search was really narrow. I actually applied only to 2 schools, and I am a commuter student. I commute up from Washington, D.C. And for me, I did look at something local, but I was constantly just drawn to New York. I had lived there before, moved away, and this was an opportunity to come back. My team is also based physically, but in terms of kind of the quick stats, if you will, my search was very focused in that I went to a small Jesuit school for college, so I wanted something that was ranked, bigger name, bigger network to kind of round out my undergrad and complement that experience. I have a marketing background, so I wanted something that was more quant heavy, and just given proximity to Wall Street, I saw people dropping in Q&A with certain professors and whether or not they're teaching. I wanted that access to academia. And then also just like future focused. I am naturally nomadic in terms of how my family decides to live and plan out our lives. And constantly we're drawn back to New York. And whether we decide to dwell there in the next 10, 15, 20 years or end up being more West Coast or global, I feel like that connection and network is going to be omnipresent. So that was the reason why. And I actually did not participate in any pre-events before applying. I didn't have a chance to visit the campus because we were still going through COVID. So this was all of my research was really like what the school is publishing, not only collaterally in terms of website and things, but based on message boards and even social media presence, because I work in marketing, and podcasts and things like that. So all types of expression, whether it's more candid or more professional, recommend for you to look at.
Great, thank you. And I just wanted to add, as Linda had mentioned, the class visit. So class visits are a part of our admissions process, and you are able to sit in on a class once you've submitted a pre-assessment and you're determined to be eligible for the program. So you can do it pretty early on, while you are simultaneously while you're working on your formal application. And you can do it at any point up until, the end of the application process. So that is available to you. Okay, great. And I'm I'm sure that you're all are very busy, working full time with your personal life, families, and then having school on top of that can be pretty tough. So I would love to learn a little bit more about sort of how you manage your time, deliverables, and sort of how much time are you spending on like coursework a week, and then how do you kind of balance that with working full time and your personal lives?
So I think everyone can manage their time well, especially since classes are on Fridays and Saturdays. So if you organize your schedule properly, it won't feel like an overwhelming amount of work or something to get anxious about. So of course, there have been cases where someone had to attend an important meeting on a Friday, for example. So they usually step out to the hallway or another class, another room, and then return. But I don't know. I mean, the program only lasts 2 years, and the time will fly by. So be present and make the most of it. That's my tip.
I inspire to be as chill as Karen because I'm not. So I feel maybe the opposite, because it is a lot, and I think you have to mentally prepare not just yourself, but your team members, who you will be missing maybe that once every 2 weeks Friday, and then also your family. Before I decided to join the program, I had like a serious conversation with my husband, and we have a 4-year-old. So I set the, I set the expectations and he was on board. So I think you really need that like outside support to be able to do this, because there are some classes where it's challenging and maybe out of my wheelhouse that I have to spend a little bit more time on. And there are some that I feel super comfortable with and it's easier. So it's definitely a balance. But you make it work, you find time. Like for team meetings, we usually meet after work in the evenings when a lot of us have put our kids down. So you manage, but it is work. It's not just like sailing through, for me at least.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll go.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I was gonna say that, yes, setting expectations up front, I think not only for yourself, but as Linda mentioned, your coworkers, I think your family, things like that. There's like this magical pot of time where once you're in school and you find your rhythm and you continue to iterate. I think with every section, every semester, you figure out, okay, is this going to be playing to my strengths or not? And like, how quickly do I read, or how did I used to learn versus how do I learn now? And those are things that it will come with time and practice. And there are certain courses where I definitely was hitting the books every single night, 9 o'clock to 11:30, and then some other sections where I was like, oh, this is what I do for a living. So I'm helping, or I'm coaching some of my team, like my cohort mates instead, and offering kind of supplemental or real world application. So it very much differs, but I think it's really a great time to kind of take audit of how you're spending your time and saying, what is going to work for me and what is the outcome that I want out of every course, because it's what you put in is what you get back. And it's also a pass fail format, which is very different from undergrad. And you're not here, like the outcome is not to get an A+ in financial accounting because you're going to become a CPA tomorrow. Like that is not the focus. It's, do I grasp these concepts enough to then ask more in-depth questions at work, or understand how do these things connect together relative to maybe my area of focus now? So that is a good level set, but if anything, it's a great audit. It's a really great opportunity to kind of revisit your values and say, what is important to me? What can I leave behind and like feel really good about?
That doesn't mean you can't become a CPA if you don't want to. You can clearly pivot as well. So
You can absolutely do that.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get exposure to a lot in the program, but on terms of balance, it is a little bit of finesse and art, and it does take a village. It's you and the community that supports you. If that's a significant other, if that's family, if that's coworkers, because your time will be spoken for when you're not taking care of sort of primary obligations of work and family. And to Kim's point, I personally did not come from a business background, a formal academic background. So some of the courses early on in the course set, specifically around accounting and finance, which are not my areas or even secondary areas of specialty, took time to put in time. To Kim's point also, though, it's a pass-fail grading system, and there is this gaining value without worrying about highest attainment. The pass-fail does have a couple of different levels built into it. But the great part about kind of putting in this effort and figuring out that balance is, and I can't stress this enough, I've had the chance to talk on a couple of panels this semester. I'm bringing actionable frameworks, knowledge to work the following Monday from Friday, Saturday classes. Like the practical aspect of most of the training that we get, and there is some theoretical constructs on some of the fields because that's necessary to build the knowledge foundation, but the opportunity to take directly from the program and apply it to work is super useful, and in my current role, and I actually switched jobs during, as did Linda, in fact, switched jobs during this program. It's great to be able to kind of add to that toolkit in a meaningful way and let that knowledge inform what you're doing at work. But on the whole, there is a little bit of a trick to it. You will get very good at time management, and you'll do it with the blessings and support of the people around you. And I think that's a really important part of this process.
All right, keep touching the button. That goes to the next slide. Thank you, Joe. That's extremely helpful. And that actually kind of segues into my next question. I was wondering if if we could get just maybe one or two examples of how the EMBA program has benefited you professionally thus far in your career as you are all in your second year of the program. So maybe just one or two.
So professionally, as an international student, the program provides a 3-year working visa. Now that I'm graduating, I'm seeking new job opportunities, and we have access to EMBA career resources, including coaches who help prepare for interviews and refine resumes. I'm also part of the retail club, which hosts events in the retail area, in the retail industry that I've attended. So all these resources are available, and you have to put in effort. You put in the effort as well. Yeah.
Joe mentioned that I changed roles while I was here. I think being in the program had a huge impact on it. I think sitting in a class and realizing that maybe the role that I was previously in and the company I was previously in really came to me. I was inspired by the professor to really start looking at different opportunities. And honestly, I probably switched jobs because of her. And even now, with a lot of the resources that are available to us in terms of like the career center that we have, I speak to our the counselors. Are they counselors? Is that what you call them? Counselors, like Debbie.
Career coaches.
Coaches. Okay, the coaches. I speak to the coaches a lot, and they're helping me try to figure out or navigate my current role and give me advice. Yeah, I'm looking at possibly taking another role, and like speaking through it with Debbie really helps help me figure out like if I want to consider it, if it's the right role for me, if it's the right personality fit for me. So like I feel like this definitely has had a huge impact for my career so far. So I can't imagine what it will be like afterwards once it's done.
Okay, great. Now I spoke briefly about the global immersion experience at the beginning of the session. I know that you all have at least gone on one global immersion experience. Can you share where you went and maybe like one takeaway that you got from that trip or just kind of the experience overall?
So I went to Taiwan, where we visit several chip manufacturers, as Taiwan is a major hub for that industry. We also visit a sustainable cosmetics brand, which was very cool too.
Our cohort went to Cape Town, South Africa, A25 last March. And it was transformative. All good travel is transformative, and this is not only not an exception to that rule, but probably an exemplar of just how transformative travel could be. We were given exposure to about 24 companies, from government-run entities all the way down to private industry, and we're plugged in for about 8 days on the front and back end with travel to just a world of very different experiences. I'd never traveled to Africa before. I had always wanted to go, and this was a great way to go. The very rich program content, and really the biggest takeaway for me was an opportunity to visit Kalizia, which was one of the slums about 30 kilometers from the city center, which was available to us through some social tourism. So a little bit of a brave step forward for part of the cohort that had a little time on the front end to just explore this part of the world. And the citizens in Galicia were so incredibly generous and kind of welcomed us into their lives for several hours. And coming away from there, just kind of looking at hope and innovation in the face of some fairly challenging conditions, definitely kind of shifted perspectives. And I think walking away from that, I carry this lens through which to kind of consider how business impacts socially and culturally an environment. Really, really important part of this cohort. And your faculty sponsor, they go to great lengths, the administration and the faculty, to create a really good program. So it's a highlight. It's absolutely a highlight of the EMBA experience at NYU.
I would add that it also puts micro and economics directly to work. We had finished those courses right before going, and we also went to Cape Town right before a really big election, and being able to see kind of how entrepreneurship versus bigger companies versus politics and things like birth rate and the median age of its citizens were kind of impacting or had consequences on their future sustainability. Critical frameworks to think about when you typically that you may not typically think about when you're on personal vacation. And now when I go to a place, maybe not as in depth as I would with my cohort, but those are now things that I consider, and it just made me a more aware global citizen in terms of how I choose to spend my money and what that says about my kind of corporate values or even emerging values within developing countries.
I think that no matter where you go, though, the experience you have with your cohort is amazing. I because I live here too, I feel like right after class, I tend to go home, and that really forced me to like spend a full week with everyone, and really get to know everyone in a different level than I did just in class. So when you're in class, you know, you work with your group, but beyond that, you're not able to really spend that much time with them because you're all focusing in class. So this was like a good opportunity to just get to know the cohort on just a different level.
Okay, fantastic. And then if you had one piece of advice that you'd share with our audience about applying or joining the program, what would you say to them?
I would say don't be afraid to ask for help, and not only from your professors or your study group or members of your cohort, but literally everyone around you. And I think that was, as someone who is a recovering, like, because that was part of the time management aspect as well, I think it actually grew a lot more relationships, like 360 for me, in terms of saying, hey, I'm doing this, I'm accomplishing this is what I need, and this is how I need help and support. And being able to demonstrate that vulnerability and the connection in terms of how people are helping you grow in all aspects was really rewarding. And I can't believe it's taken me this long to figure it out.
This is so true. So for me, it's been amazing to have the opportunity to learn from others with such a diverse experience and background. For me, I'm good with numbers, but I struggle with presenting, as you can see. But I have colleagues that who was great at presenting, but finds accounting challenging. So this balance allowed us to learn from each other without fear of being wrong, since everyone is working to improve in some areas. So that's, for me, it's the best part.
I agree with that. I think that the exposure to centers of individuals who are in their own right centers of expertise is kind of game changing, because there's always a lot to learn. Expertise is a pursuit. It's a journey, I guess, not a destination in a way. Just kind of becoming a more well-rounded professional and always striving to do more. And the program really kind of creates the best possible circumstances, to echo what Karen said, to kind of to figure out a way to leverage each other's strengths in getting through the curriculum and the program, and really benefiting from it overall on the heels of it. It's a unique experience at the EMBA level to be able to do it that way.
So my one advice, I would say, it's whatever you make of it. I think it's important to come into this program with an open mind, and just the eagerness to learn, and maybe not focus on, I mean, like, yeah, you should focus on your grades, but and what you're studying and what you want to, I guess, specialize in, but like just being open to all the different classes. Because I've taken classes that I didn't think that I would be interested in, and I was like, oh well, I'm actually like, this is super interesting to me. And I think that's really opened up my eyes and like what I can actually do, and because I had this like straight path, and I'm like, okay, well maybe there's other things that I'm interested in, so maybe I'm okay at finance.
Okay, great. Okay, so I would love to open up questions to the audience now with the time that we have left. I'm not seeing questions.
I
Let
think
me
there's the
double check.
Q&A. I see a few.
There are
Okay, there
three
we
in
go.
there now. Yeah.
Yeah, I found it. Okay, great. All right, so let's go through some of these questions. Okay, so we have a question here on specializations. Are any of you doing specializations as you're in your second year, and which ones did you choose and why?
So I'm specializing in marketing and leadership. In my opinion, finishing the MBA with the specialization is valuable because it's something extra to mention in an interview and include on your resume. Some friends of mine chose classes based on their interests and were surprised to find they ended up with a specialization as well. But I knew from the start that I wanted these two, marketing and leadership.
I'm not focusing on a specific specialization. Stern is unique in a way that doesn't require a specialization into year two, although it seems, based on my spring course choices, which we just submitted, I'm kind of gravitating more towards an overarching theme around communication. And some of that is baked into leadership. Change management is a particular topic of interest within the management school at Stern, and there's some amazing practitioners here. I do think, if I looked at my career in aggregate, about 30 years of working, I would say that, the old adage, the only constant is change, is a very, very real thing. And now that I'm getting frameworks and lenses through which to evaluate new situations when I'm tasked with doing different things, building a business line, which is my current remit at my new job, there's something really attractive about having those skills available, because they don't just apply to business. Kind of using a lens to understand situations, more sharpened critical thinking, is really important. And for me, they tend to be gravitating around these 2 or 3 specific areas.
I think I'm special. I don't know, not yet. When I'm done, I'll tell you what the actual program 2 years in August. But right now I'm focusing on specializing on strategy, leadership, and supply chain and operations. But supply chain and operations isn't available this year, so I'm doing a lot of the classes in the Langone program. I don't know if you spoke about that at all, Cheryl. We're able to take classes that I think starting the second semester in Langone, based on availability. And because of my background in operations, I wanted to add that on there as well.
Yeah, I believe you are correct. But is it one Langone course per semester that you can take?
I think you could take more than one if it's available. I think it depends on the availability.
Yeah, it's definitely on a space available basis, and Langone students or our part-time MBA students get access to the courses first before EMBA students do. But I believe after you start your second semester, you can then take those courses. Don't quote me on how many you can take because I'm not sure, but I guess at least one. We can find out more. If someone has a question, you can email us about it. And I can get that accurate answer for you.
I haven't declared a specialization yet, but as I mentioned, in terms of my school selection, finance was really important to me. So that's an area that I am prioritizing. And then similar to Joe, kind of based on the courses that are available and that I'm signed up for, I think management, which is management communication, it all kind of blurs a little bit, is going to be a second focus.
Okay, great. I think we have two questions in here about commuting to the program. Oh, well, one is for, I guess for someone local.
I'm happy to answer that one. So Stern actually provides you with hotel accommodations, and how many nights you qualify for depends how far away your primary residence is from the school. So I don't have the exact mileage on hand,
Correct.
but if it's within one mileage, the closer one, then you may register for one night. I'm commuting from DC, which is over the upper limit. So I get 2 nights. So it's a Thursday. You're checking in Thursday night. You're staying Friday night. Saturday night, you check out Saturday. I'm sorry, Thursday night, Friday night, you check out Saturday morning. I take the train in to school. So that's just a hop on to the Amtrak. But we have, I want to say, at least a third of our A25 cohort is
Sounds right.
commuting, whether it's by train, car, or plane. And they are managing it like frequent flyers by this point. But you figure out is like my ideal travel schedule is that I'm coming in on a Thursday morning. I'm spending the day in the office with my team. I'm checking into the hotel that night. There are weeks where I need to be home to coordinate with my husband or for my daughter, and I'm training in Friday morning very early and going straight to class. So some days are great, and some days are a little bit more challenging. But there is a plethora of well caffeinated coffee shops in the area, and you'll find your favorite one.
There's coffee on site too, so
Yeah.
That's
A strong brew too. They have a strong brew in the
There are
cafeteria.
meals provided on class days. So there's breakfast for those who get there early enough, and then there's lunch. Yeah, so the hotel accommodations, as Kim was mentioning, are provided to students who travel from over 40 miles or over 80 miles. So you qualify for either 1 night or 2 nights accommodations. But the hotel accommodations are complimentary of the program, so that we find can help with those that are traveling in for the program so that they can manage the travel a little bit more. We have another question here about the careers office, and how career coaches are helping you to find new roles or new job opportunities. So I don't know if any of you can talk about some of the like resources that they have in place. Generally, you don't have to talk about your experience specifically, but if you've used the careers office.
I think I mentioned earlier, I did use the careers office. They're not necessarily there to help you find a job. I think if you guys feel free to chime in, I don't know all the services they provide, but like they help you like interviewing, your resume. I think I took a test to figure out like what my personality trait was and what kind of role would work best for me. I don't know what else there is, but does anyone else have anything else to add to the career?
Yeah, there's a lot of different services. I was gonna build Linda and Debbie, and there's a lot of coaches. We all gravitate towards Debbie, but there's a lot of coaches. And I would say that there's also there's a program for people who are like very serious about I want to find or a different type of job. And it's not a course, but it's a program that you sign up for,
Kim, I think you're
It's
breaking.
very rigor, and it's. Can you hear me?
You're just
Hello?
breaking up.
Yeah, your audio is breaking up a little. Maybe.
I think what Kim's talking about is the Ignite program. I think it's for people that are pivoting or earlier in their career. And then I think there's a lot more like one-on-one sessions, and you go through a program, and I think there's like classes on the side. I don't think any of us have done it, but we know people in the cohort who have done it, and they've landed completely like new roles, or they're pivoting. So I think there's like other programs or other resources that maybe we're all not using.
Well, there are also workshops, I think, during the semester that are held like to develop your personal brand and like storytelling during interviews. Maybe you all haven't participated in that. And then there are like panels as well that the Career Center hosts, like in specific industries, that you can join. So I guess those are additional resources through the careers office. Okay, we've got 5 minutes or so left. I don't see any more questions. So if you have a question, please type it in, or I think we'll just wrap it up. Okay, we've got one coming. Okay, what other events are available to those that want to learn about the Executive MBA program? So our website has upcoming events listed for our New York program. We hold a mix of virtual and in-person events throughout the course of the semester. And, it's a combination of different types of things like information sessions, student panels. Sometimes we do specialized panels. So I would encourage you to visit our website if you are interested in additional events that you can participate in, whether it's in person or virtual. That's the best way to get the information for other opportunities to learn more about the program.
I know that William on your team, Cheryl, will also do some connecting on behalf of interested students. I don't know how they reach out to you, but part of
Oh, yes.
our job as ambassadors is to field some of those conversations. So if you have a way to share with this group how to do that, I just got an invite from
Yeah.
William earlier today. So they are doing that too, sort of one-on-ones with current students.
Yeah. So we have the opportunity also to connect with our student ambassadors. So we have a couple of them on this webinar today. But that is usually done after the interview process is completed. So there's a form that our applicants can fill out if they want to be connected with one of our students. It can be a student ambassador that we have, or it can be, I guess, if they're looking to speak with someone specifically in like an industry or something, they can note that down. But generally, we have our student ambassadors connect with our applicants to share a little bit more about their experience one-on-one and answer any questions that our applicants might have. So that is definitely available to the group during the admissions process.
You actually have two more really short
I'm seeing here.
questions there. Yeah.
Yep. So we have another question about distance learning opportunities in the program. I believe Kim already answered a question in the chat about this, but the program is completely in person. So we don't have any like remote options available for the class sessions. Classes are recorded. So if students miss a class day or a couple of sessions, they're able to view the recording online. And then they can catch up on like any notes that they might have missed with their study group or classmates. So that's the format of the program. Okay, we have another question here. Are there members of the cohort who don't have direct people management experience? Is it a requirement to have that experience going in? This is a great question. So we do not require any people management experience in order to apply to the program. It's great if you have that. It's not something that we're necessarily looking for in the admissions process. So you do not need that in order to apply. The prerequisite that we have is that all of our applicants need to have a minimum of 6 years of full-time work experience. But there's no number for the management experience. All right, great. I don't see any more questions in the Q&A. So thank you all for joining us tonight. We really appreciate everyone coming out, and look out for the application fee waiver coming to you, I think a couple days after the event. And thank you to our panelists for joining us after, I'm sure, a long day of work. So we appreciate your help. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
One.